sports betting brother, and he bring it up, and thanks for stopping by. My name is Boyd, and I'm a sports betting market analyst with OddsJam.com. We teach you how to bet like a pro using all the tools, all the resources, all the positive EV, all the good stuff at OddsJam. And I want to welcome you to do that on a free 7-day trial if you haven't done so already. But today's topic, we're really breaking it down. This is literally as foundational and as basic as it gets. And so I'm going to talk about the top 10 terms that you need to know if you're just getting started as a sports bettor, if you're just getting started and just getting out there and getting going and maybe unfamiliar with a couple of the terms. That's what I'm here to help you with. Now, if you're a person that's been around for quite some time, this video may not be for you, but this is for all those newbies and beginners and ground zero people. So let's take a look at the top 10. All right, guys, here we're at the odds screen, or the NFL odds screen, and today's first word we're covering is favorite. What is the favorite? Who is the favorite? You can always identify the favorite because they're the team that has the minus next to the point spread number. And so in this case, it's the Dallas Cowboys are favored by 2.5. Of course, the favorites don't always win, right? But the favorites are here to balance out some of the action with the point spreads, in that the Kansas City Chiefs are favored against the Jaguars by 8 points. And you can see here different sports books have different prices for that particular favorite. That's something we do at OddsJam, is to get into all the mathematical benefits of knowing the favorite's number compared to the opponent. And again, the favorite's always going to have the minus sign next to it. We'll talk about point spreads and what this means a little bit later on. But the favorite is just simply the team that supposedly has the edge and potentially going to win the game, allegedly. Now, next up, the second word of the 10 you have to know is underdog. The underdog is a team that is clearly not the favorite. Clearly, they're supposedly not as likely to win, and so therefore they have the plus next to the point spread number in a particular game. And again, this is the NFL for the playoffs coming up. The favorite here is the Chiefs by 8, but the Jaguars are the underdog, and they're getting 8 points. This plus 8 means that they could lose the game. And again, we'll talk more about the point spreads and what this means a little bit later, but they could still cover a wager and not win the game, even though they are the underdog, and that's how they balance that out. But the underdog simply is a team that is allegedly not supposed to win. Of course, we all know that doesn't always happen, right? Underdogs win quite often, and we'll talk about that more coming up. Next up, we have the term the line. People say, what's the line on the game? You might hear that quite often when people say, hey, what's the line on the Bills game? Well, you would say, well, the Bills are favored by 4 because they're minus 4 points here. They're 4-point favorites. And if you want to know the total of the game, the over-under, most people will include the total right along with that line. So a person would say, well, the Bills by 4 and the total's 50. So that's exactly what that means. When you hear the line, you're typically going to get the point spread of that particular game, and typically people also include the total. So you'll hear Bills minus 4, total's 50. Or you might hear Dallas minus 2.5, the total's 44.5. And that gives you an idea of what the point spread is and also the total, which we'll talk about here shortly. All right, so we just talked about what is the line. The line on the game is typically the point spread and the total combined. You can announce it as such, where we mentioned the Cowboys were minus 2.5. The total was 45.5. And so what that does is it tells us the Cowboys in this particular situation being minus 2.5. The minus means that obviously they're the favorite and they need to win by 3 points or more. Okay, so a win, that line is minus 3. At Caesars, that line is minus 3. So what happens if Dallas wins by 3? Well, that's a push. And meaning a push is you get your money back. You wouldn't win the bet. You wouldn't lose the bet. If you risk $50 on that wager, the casino would, or the sports book would return your money. And that would be a push. It's another term you may want to write down. It's kind of an extra added one talking about point spreads. But in this case, minus 2.5 means that Dallas could actually win the game by 2 points and still lose the bet. So if it's 21-19 Dallas, that means they didn't fully cover that 2 points, that 2.5 points. They had to win by 3 or more. That's why these point spreads and these numbers, these key numbers in the NFL are so very, very important, is because that little extra half a point can mean the difference between a cover and a loss. And so that is what the point spread is the team that has the minus, they have to win by that many points or more. If they win by that many points, it's a push. If they win by more, it's a win. If they win the game but don't cover the spread by enough points, that's a loss. And that would be an opportunity where you would have taken the underdog either to win outright or to have enough points to the favorite did not cover that point spread. So hopefully that makes a little more sense for you. All right, next up is moneyline. And so let's take a look at this Buffalo-Cincinnati game and also the Tampa Bay-Dallas game. So you have the Bills are favored by 4 in the point spread. But let's check out, and also the Cowboys are favored by 2.5 in the point spread. Let's check out what the money line is. Now, the money line is another key term you have to know. Money line simply means pick a winner. Doesn't have anything to do with how many points they score. Doesn't have anything to do with how many points they win by. Is all it is. It's critical that team wins the game. So here, this case, the Bills, we remember, were favored by 4 points. Okay, so you'd have to risk minus 208. What this means is you'd have to risk $208 to win 100, or you'd have to risk $20.80 to win 20. So the math works out to where the odds are in that fashion. Now here you can see at BetMGM, they have it at minus 200. That's a little bit better price than you could get, say, at Bookmaker at minus 220, things like that. So you pay a better price. And again, using OddsJam is how you find all the best data to get the best price, the best sports books. Now, on that same token, if you took the money line on the Bengals, if the Bengals won the game outright, you could risk $100 and you'd get $182 back. Okay, so the Underdog money line price gives you different and more of a positive odds situation. You can remember that Cowboys game, they were favored by 2.5 points. Well, that equates to about a minus 147 money line. So again, you'd have to risk $14.70 to win $10. And then mathematically, you just extrapolate that out. You have to risk $147 to win 100. So that's what the minus means. The minus is the favorite. In that situation, you can see how the money line is pretty relative to the point spread. So again, you can see the point spread in that Bills game was minus 4. It's a little bit higher priced than 2.5 down there at that Cowboys game. And I believe this Chiefs point spread was minus 8. So you can see that's even higher than the minus 4 that was in the point spread here. So again, if you're taking the more heavily favored team, such as the Chiefs in this situation, you're going to have worse odds, worse payout odds. Now you can see here where it even gets really bad at minus 450, minus 455, minus 480. So this is the best price if you happen to go that route betting the money line. You say, I'm going to bet the money line on the Chiefs, and you get whatever price and odds this is as far as a payout. But it's critical to know you'd want the lowest number possible on that money line favorite, because you're going to have worse payout odds. And contrarily, if you took the Jaguars, say, I want the Jaguars to win again, why would you place that bet and not get the highest payout? So you'd want to go to win here at 370. That's the biggest and best number for the biggest payout. And why not? I mean, if they win, why not get paid 370 versus 310? Or why not get paid 370 versus, even 340 or 339? So, big difference there in money and how the money line works. The money line's just pick a winner, and the odds are going to follow suit with the risk factor or probability. All right, next up is total. And the total is sometimes called the over-under. What's the over-under? Well, it's 45.5 in this Dallas-Tampa Bay game. You can see 45.5 is pretty frequent. Now, one key here is if you're betting on totals, you clearly know the game can't end on a half a point number. So what's going to happen is this score is clearly going to go over or under, and this extra half a point can mean a big difference between just a flat push at 45. So the final score is 23-22, and it's a total of 45. That'd be a push to get your money back. But if you had the under 45, you would hit that bet by that extra half a point. So keep in mind this half a point on these totals, especially around key numbers, especially in the NFL. But that's what it means. You take the score of both teams, you add them up, and you get a total, a final total. A final is going to be over or under the final score, the final number of points both teams accumulate for a full game. So again, over under, take both teams' scores, add them up, boom, whatever that number is. If you think that number is going to be over or under what's offered, that's how you would place a bet on the total. All right, guys, next word you need to know is parlay. What is a parlay in sports betting? Well, a parlay is when you have 2, 3, 4, up to 5, 6, 7. It doesn't matter the number, but a parlay is when you have more than 2 or more wagers that must happen. And so what you'll do is, let's say in this case, this parlay calculator is a nice handy tool at OddsJam that helps you calculate the winnings that you would have if you took 2 or 3 bets and put them together. So let's say you put $100 down, you had a wager of $100, and let's say the first bet you had, you did a favorite. Let's say it was minus 120, okay? And that was on, say, a point spread bet. Then maybe you did a total. Let's say you did the total, an over-under bet. Let's say that was also at minus 110 odds. And let's say the last bet you did was a money line bet. That money line was kind of a long shot. Let's say it was 350 plus 350. That would be the payout or the odds for that particular wager. Okay, so you'd have your odds here at plus 1475. So what this means is, because you have this large underdog here, combined with these other two, all 3 bets have to hit, you'd actually win $1,475 on a $100 risk amount. Okay, so you can see how the math adds up and how that would pay out relative to these 3 bets. If you did these 3 together all in one, that's a parlay, putting more than 2 or more bets together that all have to hit. Let's say that this bet loses. Let's say bet 1 loses, but you do win your other 2. Unfortunately, in a parlay, everything would turn into a loss. You would not win that bet because you need all 3 to hit. If you have 1 of the 3, 2 of the 3, or of course 3 of the 3, you would not profit and not win that bet. That's what a parlay is. Very simple. 2 or more bets. The odds increase the more games you slip into it, and they're all calculated based on the odds of the individual games themselves. Next word is odds. Odds are very, very, very important to understand. Odds are the numbers or the mathematical digits that you want to know for some probability and some payouts. So, for example, the decimal and the fraction are 2 other methods that are used in sports betting, but in America, the most common American odds are the minus 110, the minus 120, the minus 130. It's a negative for the negative, or a minus for the favorite, and a plus or a positive for an underdog. So let's just say that you took a favorite of minus 150. Okay, that probability is 60%. So what this is saying is, let's say that it's a football game, and let's say that you bet the money line, and the odds are minus 150. You'd have to risk $150 to win 100, or you'd have to risk $15 to win 10. But the probability of that bet hitting are 60% of the time. So you're going to win this potentially, according to the math, 6 out of 10 times. You're going to lose this bet 4 out of 10 times. Let's take a look at an American odds of an underdog. Let's say it's plus 130. Okay, what this means is you're going to win this mathematically will hit 43.48% of the time. So most people, they're afraid to take the underdog. They're afraid to take this because they feel like they don't have a chance. Well, my gosh, you actually have a higher chance betting plus 130, because this is going to win 43.48% of the time. On the other side, you have the minus 150. Well, that would win 40% of the time too. So it's in reality, you have slightly better odds by taking this particular situation. Now, let's take that plus 150. Let's increase this a little bit. Obviously, that's going to go down to 40%. So isn't that interesting how the minus 150 equals 60% probability, the plus 150 equals 40% probability. And I think when you have some relativity of the odds and how the payouts work, you can understand the probabilities are typically better than maybe what you had anticipated, and you're getting positive money based on your investment. Because in this case, you could risk $10 to win 15, or you could risk $100 to win 150. And again, you can bet any number. You can bet $32.12. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving you the odds and the probability of how that would calculate out for you. The next word is the hook. The hook is this little half a point right here. So the 7.5, that extra half or extra 0.5 is called the hook. Here at minus 2.5, the 0.5 or the half is the hook. The minus 8.5, that extra 0.5 is the hook. Now, why is that important? Because you can have this other bet at minus 8. Let's say the score ends up 28-20. It lands on the number, lands right on the number, so it's a push. But in some cases, this hook can create a winner, not in some cases, it will always create a win or a loss, right? You can't have the final score in by 8.5 points. You can't have the final score in by 2.5 points. So something has to happen. So this is the odds maker's way of directing traffic one way or the other. Pick a lane, get in a lane, but you can win or lose by that hook, because it can be very common to land on some of these numbers at the very end. and you're wishing you might have 7, or you might have had 8, as opposed to losing by the hook. The hook is at half a point. It's very important to identify it and notice it, because it can create a lot more wins and losses for you if you understand the value of these numbers and where you stand in your odds and your probabilities and your payouts, having the hook or not having the hook on a particular wager. 0.5, that's the hook. All right, guys, the last term where you might hear is chalk. What is chalk? Chalk simply means the favorite. So if someone says, "Oh, that's a really chalky bet," they might assume that being a newer bettor, you're going to take a lot of favorites, a lot of chalk. And so anytime you hear the word chalk, or if you hear a team, let's say, "Oh, hey, Texas, the Longhorns are chalk," that just means that they're the favorite. Now, you don't have the odds, the probability, the line, the total, anything like that. So all you know is they're chalk, they're favorites. They're supposedly going to win because they're the favorites. They're chalk. And so chalky bets can be a term that you hear by a lot of people that say maybe you're being a beginner, you're taking a lot of favorites, and that's psychologically what a lot of people do is they take chalk. Can happen a lot, and it's just a term you may hear, so you understand that if they're saying you have chalky bets, that means they're just saying you take a lot of favorites. All right, guys, there you go. There's the top 10 simple, basic, fundamental, just starting point for the 10 sports betting terms that if you're just getting going, I would make sure you become very, very familiar with those. Now, again, I want to invite you over to the OddsJam website to take advantage of all the tools, all the resources, the mathematical, profitable, positive expected value pages, the arbitrage pages, all the educational things that are available there with that free 7-day trial. So hit the links below. I'm going to have another video coming out that's going to take it to the next level as far as more advanced terms and more advanced terminology. So once you kind of master these first 10 as you're just getting started as a beginning sports bettor, take a look at that next video coming out. We'll put that out the next day or so, and you can advance your vocabulary, your terminology, and your vernacular as you get better and better at making money in sports.